Good morning. I am on the third podcast, this will be, and I am going to talk about mental illness. But first, I would like to say that excitingly, I actually made it to the gym this morning with the different wording that I used in saying I will be going to the gym tomorrow and making it more of a push for myself. And trust me, it was like a huge struggle still. Regardless if I said I'm going or I will, it's still a huge struggle. And I pushed myself. And, my fiance is like, you're going to feel better after you go. Like, if you just continue to go and push yourself and go, he goes, you're going to feel so much better after. And I was like, yeah, but I'm just like so tired. I would rather sleep in the extra half an hour. And now that I went, I do feel better. And it feels better to just kind of meet that goal and kind of accomplish what you wanted to accomplish. So that being said, I just wanted to start talking about my mental health journey and just kind of to help other people, and maybe some people can resonate with it, or maybe it's just going to be good stuff to know. And yeah, I'm going to keep it real and try to, keep it raw. So here it goes. So I probably have struggled with mental illness my entire life and just not known it. But when I was around 16 or 17, I was in a very, very dark place, and nobody really knew that I was struggling like that. And to put things into perspective, I'm this outgoing, always laughing, making jokes, open-minded and everything, optimistic person. So everybody just continued to think that I was okay. Nobody ever thought that I was struggling internally with anything. And not even my parents knew. Not my brothers, not anybody knew how much I was struggling, except for my boyfriend, which is now my fiance at the time. But he did know that I was struggling, in mentally, but he didn't know how bad it was. And it's hard because I was so young. So he was also so young. So he also didn't really know what to do, what to say. So push came to shove. It came to a point where he said, okay, you have to tell your parents, or I'm going to tell my parents, or I'm going to tell your parents, because something needs to get changed here. You need to go talk to somebody. You need to go to the doctors. You need something to help you get better. So it was a very hard pill to swallow. And I grew up in a household where my mom was the hard one. She was the one who yelled at us if there was something wrong. My dad was the calm one. And I know that sounds really odd because usually it's the other way around. But my dad is this very calm and sweet guy. And he would never yell at us. He was more understanding when I talked about things. So my first approach was my dad. I went to my dad. I kind of told him about stuff that was going on. I didn't fully tell him the whole disclosure, but I just said, I need to go to the doctors, please. And please just take me. And then once we go to the doctors, can you please help me tell mom? Because I'm struggling. I'm even struggling right now telling you. Whatever. So we go to the doctors. Doctor says, is it okay if your dad sits in on the meeting? And I said, yeah, for sure. I don't mind him sitting in. He knows everything. Yada, yada. Well, I didn't really vocalize it to anybody, but the doctor kind of said, do you self-harm? Or do you have suicidal thoughts? And I said, yes. But the struggle to say yes was huge because my dad had no idea. And I was nervous for the repercussion of that being said. And then that's when the doctor kind of said, okay, like, if this is what's happening, we need to get you to a counselor or get you into therapy so that we can try that out first. And then if you still need a little bit of help, he told me that he would consider medication, which I appreciated. My doctor was trying to do the therapy thing first, not the medication, which was totally fine with me. So I was scoring like severe depression and severe anxiety on like the little questionnaires that they give you at the doctor's. So my dad and I, we went and told my mom at work, and thank goodness my dad was there, and my mom was kind of taken back, but I was just really scared for her reaction, mostly to the self-harm part, not so much to the depression part, but the self-harm part, because I don't think they thought that I was that badly struggling, but when you put it into that perspective and how much pain I was feeling, they kind of understood it a little bit more and were kind of thinking, okay, this is like hugely serious, this should not be happening. Regardless, my parents would think it's important because mental illness runs in my family. And like I think I said in episode 1, my dad wasn't a drunk when growing up, like he was drinking and stuff. So, it runs in the family. My mom's side has depression and anxiety. So it didn't come to a shock to either of them. But the biggest concern was the self-harming, of course. So my dad went home and told my brothers, and I went to my boyfriend's house because I was nervous that my brothers were going to be like, oh, like, don't do that. Don't be stupid. Don't do that. Like, be their, like, little protective brother kinds of things. And so I asked my dad if he could go home and tell my brothers. And growing up, my oldest brother, he gave me a very hard time to try to teach me tough love. And he was a little bit harder on me. And I'm grateful for it now. But at the time, when you're struggling with depression and anxiety, you don't want to hear, like, those hard things being thrown at you. So my dad kind of had to go home and just tell them, like, you kind of have to take it easy on her a little bit. Like, don't be so, like, hard on her. Just, take it one step at a time. Be a little bit softer with her. She just needs that, like, love and that care right now. So it helped a lot that he went there and did it, because when I got home, they were awesome. And my brother did ease up on me a little bit, and it did help. So next thing was to book therapy and counseling, to try that before medication. And we did book therapy, and I was like, I don't want to go. Like, my anxiety was shot through the roof. My stomach was a mess before the appointment. I'm like, what is going to happen? Why do I have to go there? I don't need this. Like, I'm fine. I can deal with it on my own. I'll get better. Like, all those things that you go through. And then I go to counseling, and my counselor was awesome. We kind of got to the root of everything, and most of it stems back from childhood memories and some things that happened when I was a child. And I will get into that in later episodes, but it's a little bit like lengthy stories and stuff like that. So she got to kind of like the root of the problem and just the other things. And she gave me tools like journaling, talking it out, trying to, like, do something else. When you feel like you're going to self-harm, think about something else or write it down. She goes, even if you want to write it down and throw it out, crumple it up really hard, try to get your emotions out with it. So I was doing it. It kind of helped a little bit. I went for maybe like 3 or 4 appointments, and I was still not 100%, like not at all. And so we go back to my doctor after a month and talk to him, and he says, okay, we're going to put you on a low dose of an medication, and we're going to try it out, just a really low dose at first, and then if we need to adjust it later, we'll adjust it later. So, okay, so I started taking this medication. My mom kind of had this stigma about medication where it's not good for you, like you shouldn't be on medication or you don't need it. And the way that the doctor kind of explained it to us is to kind of like make it more sense to my mom was mental illness pretty much is exactly the same as having high cholesterol or high blood pressure or things like that, because it's literally levels in your brain that need that little bit of a boost to get up to be able to actually function properly and to be able to actually have those like happy chemicals go. I don't remember what they're called, dopamine or whatever, but bear with me. So he explained it like that. So he also kind of explained it like a race car fuel. You don't put bad gas in a good race car and like a high quality race car. But if you put bad oil or bad gas into that sports car, it's not going to perform at the best that it can. But if you add in that high gas and you're giving it what the car needs, it'll be performing at its absolute best, or at least close to it. And it actually helps kind of visualize it and see that medication is not a bad thing for mental illness. It doesn't mean you're weak, and which is what I thought. And part of me not talking to anybody about my struggle and about being so upset and sad was the fact that I didn't want to be seen as weak, which it's not, that's not what it is at all. But I felt weak telling people that I was weak. Like, I felt like that I had to be strong in order for everything else to be okay and everybody else to be happy. I had to be the strong one, but I had to be part of that strong team. And, growing up and through the years, I've realized that that's not really the truth at all. And that's not actually what it is. But, so I got on medication and stuff like that. The first medication, we tried it for a month or two. It didn't work. It was lowering my anxiety, but my depression was still really high. And so then we ended up having to wean me off of that one and then put me onto another one. And I got put on one that like my dad is on, my grandma, whoever's on. And the doctor kind of said, like, usually if it's genetic as well, the same medication will help just the same as for other people in your family. So I was optimistic and I was hoping, okay, I hope this works. I really just need something to help me. So that medication did help for a little bit. I was on that medication for a good 3 to 4 months, still going to counseling, still doing, it's called EMDR. It's for trauma, and it was crazy at first when I got told that I had PTSD from childhood, because in my head growing up, you always thought, okay, like, when people from the army come back and people from that kind of stuff come back, police officers, they come back and they have PTSD because they witness things that are absolutely horrible and horrifying. But me, I was like, I didn't have anything in childhood that was that bad that would give me PTSD. Like, I'm so confused. I'm so appalled at this. But the counselor said, no, you have PTSD. There's this thing called EMDR, which is rapid eye movement or something. So they pretty much do the trauma sessions with you and stuff like that. And it did help because it did relieve some of those traumas in my brain. And it did help. And so for a little bit I was okay. And I actually worked on the self-harm, and I no longer do that. And I haven't since I was probably 16. And, yeah, and I'm not saying that, you know, it wasn't a struggle and it's still not a struggle. It is a struggle daily, all the time. Some days you think you're like in the best of moods and you're having the greatest day, and then the next day comes and you're just right back down low and you don't know what to do and you don't know what to say or how to be, and it's a struggle every day. So back to that. So the second medication, so I was on that for a little while, and like I said, I was continuing to go to counseling throughout it. I did switch counselors. So the way that it worked was, it was through my mom's work and it was free. So I went to that therapy, and then something happened where they switched or something, and I had to go do another one, but I had to go to psychotherapy, which is different apparently. I didn't know it's different. So psychotherapy, I had to go to psychotherapy. So then I went to psychotherapy, and I'm still on the second medication. So then, whatever, I was talking to my friends about mental illness, and somebody had mentioned another counselor that specifically works in trauma that I still needed work on and all this kinds of stuff. And I was making breakthroughs at counseling, and I was kind of thinking, like, getting to the points where you're like, I see why I was struggling that hard, or I see, like, what could have triggered me with the traumas and with that kinds of stuff, because I did have hardships as a kid. I did have some hard things to go through, and my emotions were valid, but as a kid, I think seeing my mom struggling through it, I felt like I had to be strong as well, because I wanted to help her through it, which is fine and is totally normal, because you see your mom or your dad upset or struggling, and your heart breaks for them, and at least mine does. And I'm an empathetic person, so I struggle hugely with feeling other people's feelings. And it's one of the best but worst qualities that I have, because it makes life hard. It makes your emotions so much more magnified. So, yeah, and then my doctor were talking, the medication I was on, I was kind of like talking to my doctor, and I said, I just don't feel like myself, like, at all. And he kind of said to me, he's like, listen, try it out for a little bit longer, because you might not feel like yourself because you've never been used to yourself feeling better. Like, you're not used to the person you are with medication. So he said, kind of just wait it out a little bit longer and just to see. So then, I don't know, like a year or something later, he's like, we're working on it, we're doing everything. And he kind of said to me, he's like, would you like to try to get weaned off of the medication? Because sometimes doctors will do that just to try to see if you can do it without it, and if you have the tools, and if your brain can do it. So I did get weaned off my medication, but I never got told to wean myself off of it. So I weaned myself off the second medication. The first medication I stopped taking completely, and I went through withdrawals. Sorry, I got those mixed up. So the second medication I got weaned off of, was on no medication, and whatever, I was like, oh, maybe this can work. Like, maybe I don't have to be on medication. Maybe all this stuff. And then 2 or 3 months later, I realized, nope, this isn't working. I cannot do this without medication. I need medication, and I need something to help. So the doctor put me on a different medication, and this medication that he had put me on is one that works for younger people, usually like youth people. And I was like, okay, like, I'm optimistic to try it. I'm always open-minded and optimistic. So I tried that medication, and it was working phenomenal. It was amazing. It helps a lot. But now, or like maybe last year, after the whole COVID stuff, I had to go on another medication, a different one, or not a different one. They had to up my dose for this one, and wanted to see if that helped. And I went back to counseling, and the medication helped a little bit more up the dose, but my anxiety is still really, really bad and really high. So I'm waiting currently for psychiatrist appointment through the region, and I'm just waiting it out. So it is a struggle. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying, and fully open, I went to counseling throughout my entire years. I at least go back once or twice a year because I feel like I need that stuff, and I feel like I need not the update, but every once in a while, just like get me back to where I was kind of thing. And while I'm waiting for the psychiatrist and stuff, I do have a counseling appointment booked, and I am excited for it, but I strongly believe in counseling for people. Anybody who talks to me about mental illness, I just say try counseling, because it honestly does help to have somebody to talk to who professionally knows what they're talking about and knows what they're doing. And it helped extremely when I was struggling at my worst. I can go into more details about like certain things and certain times when I really struggled and what I did during that time. I just wanted to kind of fill you in on like my mental illness journey and kind of give you a brief little thing from the past couple of years and when it all started and how I'm dealing with it, or how I'm getting back to trying to better myself and things like that. So, per se, for example, the gym, that was one of the things that I was trying to do to help my mental. And it did help my mental, and I just needed a little bit more of a push because I stopped. And then you get into your mind and you think, why am I going to the gym? Like, it's not going to change. I don't see any differences. I never change when I go to the gym. Blah, blah, blah. I don't lose the weight. I don't do this. And today I just kind of had to keep on telling myself, even if you don't lose the weight, you're coming here and you're getting energy out. You're working out, and that's good for your brain. So even if you don't see results right away, or you don't see a result and it's in your mind, you're like, this isn't worth it, I should stop going. No, continue to go, because maybe over time you'll see a difference in your body, or maybe over time you'll see a difference in your mental stuff, like your mental health. And I will say one of the things that my counselor told me is whenever you talk about depression and anxiety, I often sometimes will now say my depression, or I do it subconsciously, but I really try to make an effort to say the depression and the anxiety, because my counselor told me that it's not your identity. It's not who you are. You are not depression and anxiety. She goes, it is just it's just a part. So just say the depression, anxiety, because then you're not making it a part of yourself. You're not making it who you are. Yes, you have it. Yes, it's in your system. But when you have high blood pressure, you don't say my blood pressure, my cancer, my things. You say the cancer, because it's something, yes, it's something inside of you, but doesn't make up who you are. It's not you. It's not mine. It's the. And it kind of did shift my mental outlook on depression and anxiety, and really not morphing it into myself and putting that my in front of it really did actually shift my mental thinking and the way that I thought about it. Anyways, so I hope this kind of resonates with some of you. Not resonates, but I hope it helps some of you. And whoever is struggling with anxiety and depression, you aren't alone. You have a lot of people around you that probably are struggling, whether you know it or not. And yeah, just let me know if you want me to talk about anything specifically. I'm going to try to get into what it was like growing up with an alcoholic father and in a household where, as a kid, not knowing much, I felt like I had to be strong for the people around me, and what that kind of did to my mental illness later on in life. And another cool fact, I'm going to say another cool fact, is that I learned through some of my classes through education that children, if anything traumatic happens to them between the ages of 0 and 8, they don't fully understand what's going on. So they're living through it, they see what's happening, but they don't fully understand it. Once they get to 8 and up, they actually start understanding what happens. So you might actually see more of the emotions coming through, and a lot of the stuff that they're starting to understand and be like, that's why that happened, or, oh, I understand why that happened now. It's a lot for their mental illness and their mental state, because especially if you had a hard childhood or they had a lot of traumas when they were younger, say somebody passing away or parents splitting up, they know it's happening, but they don't truly understand what's going on yet. And until they are a little bit older, they won't fully get it. And just being there for them at that age and being able to say, like, this and this happened when you were younger. Do you still completely understand it? Or do you understand that so-and-so died when you were younger and is gone? Like, do you understand those things? And if they do, or if they start saying, like, yeah, it was a really big struggle, maybe start to say to them, like, if you ever need to talk it out, or if you ever have questions about it, just come out and ask me. Or if you ever feel like you're struggling emotionally, you can talk to me. And just kind of start to be there for them. And yeah, and make sure that they don't think it's their fault, because growing up when I was younger, I thought a lot of stuff was my fault that was happening with my parents, and it wasn't the case at all. So just kind of reassuring kids. Yeah. So thanks for the third episode. This one's a little bit longer, but hopefully I can come on tomorrow and talk. If not, I'll do it the next day. But enjoy this for now, and thank you for listening.